And we're rolling. Welcome to episode 16 already. It's been 4 months of doing this. Episode 16 of the Long Toss here on the Walkoff. I am, as always, Adam Mack, joined by some familiar faces. We've got Scott Belford sporting the Flames hat. Game 7 goes tonight. How's your team doing? Is that game started yet?
Nope, 7:30 Mountain Time. So, yeah, right about an hour and a half after we're done this. I'm nervous, especially after watching the Oilers win yesterday.
Hey,
now
my Oilers pulled
really
it out,
on.
so yeah.
Oh, your Oilers now. Oh,
yeah, hey, my Canadians finished dead last. So, yeah, my Oilers just won in Game 7 as well. Hey, I live in Edmonton. I'm allowed to say that. Jen, how are you doing? Nice to see you.
I'm doing better than the Blue Jays.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty low bar you've set for yourself there. Joel, how about yourself?
Yeah, that's a pretty just statement, right? I'm personally okay, but my allegiance to my ball club is waning. Well, not my allegiance, but just my my approval and what they've been doing lately.
Yeah, the approval, yeah.
Faith.
That is fair. Your movie is chugging along, though. Your movie is very close to being done.
Yes, it is. It's so close. Editing has started now, so it's in a weird state where there's still two more days of shooting, but editing has begun, which they need me for, and we're doing writing on those 2 final scenes. So it's like pre-production, production, and post-production are all happening at the same time.
Very cool. And this is a new level of hands-on for you as well, correct?
Oh yeah. I've only done writing up to this point, and then I was brought in as I had to do associate producing, I had to do casting, editing now, and a lot of scheduling stuff. So all of this is new for me, but it's still going, so I haven't fucked up that bad yet.
Very good. All right, and then the last new face here, we've got Brian Costa from the Down to the Wire radio show out of Boston. So thanks for taking the time. Brian, how you doing?
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate you allowing me to come on the show, talk some ball with you guys. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
It is a lot easier to have a Boston sports fan on when the Red Sox are performing the way they are. Let me tell you. I don't think we're gonna have any Yankees fans on anytime soon. The Boston sports fans, come on in.
No, I mean, trust me. I mean, listen, I have been on the fire Chaim Bloom train since the very beginning. I don't think that he's a good general manager, and I think that you can't build the Boston Red Sox like you do the Tampa Bay Rays. You have the money to spend, and when you spend it on a guy like Trevor Story with the way he's been performing, I don't know. I think that there has to be some sort of a reevaluation. All in total, my entire sports fandom has completely turned right now to the Boston Celtics. Scott, I know
move. It's a good move.
Oh yeah, I mean, Scott, I know you just said you're anticipating your Game 7. I'm still currently in the middle of mine right now. Celtics Bucks, they're doing pretty well right now with 1:49 left. I mean, 103-77 on the Bucks. They're blowing the doors off them.
Yeah.
So I mean, Giannis was getting calls all throughout the series. So hell, I'm just happy we're moving on.
Brian, do you think the Red Sox are as bad as they're playing? They're a better team than this, right?
They're a better team than this. I mean, unfortunately, our pitching woes is really kind of what's gotten us the whole year. And I don't know what it is. I mean, we're technically 3-0 ever since Alex Cora shaved his beard. So let's roll with that. Maybe we can really start something here.
Hey, if the Blue Jays need Scott and me to shave our beards to turn things around, then unfortunately we're going to miss the playoffs.
I cut the flow today. I got rid of it, hoping that would do something. So now we didn't. So I can't go much shorter than this. I can go bald, I guess. Well,
I'm heading back to the barber school tomorrow for my free haircut. So we'll see if that gets some luck going. But all right, we got a lot to talk about today. Before we dive into it, just want a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. So thank you to Ian, Jeremy, Joshua, Rashid over in the Middle East in Qatar, Simon, John, Sarah, and Michael. Appreciate the love and support. Everybody tuning in. Sunday night, we are live on YouTube. So if you're watching this tonight, Sunday, get your comments in the live chat, and we will address them either as we go or towards the end of the show, kind of depending on the flow of the conversation. If you are listening to this on audio form after the fact or watching it Monday or later in the week, get your comments in. Tell us what you thought of Hey Kami's new haircut. What you thought of Brian? Should we have him back? Is he welcome?
No,
as a Red
it
Sox
definitely
fan?
not. Definitely won't be allowed back.
But we'll get into all that. And lastly, big thank you to our sponsor, Oh My Apparel. That is Out Hustle My Yesterday. So go to teamomai.ca. Athletic apparel, post-game apparel for athletes, by athletes, Canadian made. They designed our logo. We are in talks with Duncan to get some sick merch made. One of the running jokes on our channel, if you're new here, is the term bad tacos. We use bad tacos rather than injuries as a way of avoiding a jinx, or being blamed for a jinx rather. So maybe someone in our Discord has a artistic ability and they want to draw up a badass looking taco, and then we can make some sick merch from the bad taco joke and go from there. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into baseball here. Blue Jays just lost 2 out of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays. We lost the 2 games I thought maybe we had a chance at winning, and we won the game that I kind of had just written off. Gossman and Manoah both dealing losses to the Blue Jays. I know I'm putting it entirely on the pitching shoulders, despite the fact that we scored, I think, 2 runs combined in those games. But Ryu was back, and he looked pretty good. So let's get into that. Overall thoughts, Scott, on this Rays series. I know the general feeling is panic, but is there any silver lining to take away from this Rays series?
Oh, that the road trip's over? Like, fuck this whole road trip. Like, the whole thing was just a disgusting display of baseball. I'm just glad they're going home. Like, it's done. We're 18-17. The meat grinder of the schedule is done. It's not like there's easy teams waiting in Seattle and Los Angeles, but my God, there's days off. They're not the Yankees and the Rays nonstop. Are these positives? Have I named some positives?
I mean, you did say it's over, so there is that.
Yeah,
There is that.
At least you just finally pulled the knife out.
I mean, Vladdy's on a 12-game hit streak. That's something, even
Is
though
he?
when I found that out, yeah, which is crazy, because when I found that out, I was like, that's wild. I thought he was slumping.
I guess 1 for 5 still counts as a hit streak, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that is the most underwhelming hit streak I've seen in a long time. Jen, how are you feeling about this Jays team after this Tampa series, and I guess broadly speaking after the New York?
I mean, that was a god awful road trip. Like, there's just no other way to describe it. And, you know, we said, what, last Sunday, you asked me if Jays fans should brace for, you know, going 1 for 5 between New York and Tampa. And I said they should brace for it.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Is that what you did? We went 1 and 5?
Between New York and Tampa, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize we got swept by the Yankees. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
gross.
I braced for it, and it still hurt.
Right, because, you know, they win the game with Ryu yesterday, which was the one game, as you said, we didn't expect. And, you know, maybe felt pretty good with Manoah going out there today, and they just couldn't hit to save their lives. So I really don't know. Plus the one in New York, the first game that they were winning, that Romano blew the save, like that one, that hurt as well, right? But you look at it's only the outcome that matters. That's the thing, right? You know, they theoretically, that could have been a better road trip, but it wasn't. The outcome is the only thing that matters here.
Joel, I mean, we can talk all day long about those. I know on Blue Jays Twitter right now, those 3 runs given up in the 6th. That was an error and a passed ball and just like some really messy baseball being played. It's irrelevant, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't even matter. You're not, like, even if that inning didn't happen, you're not winning 0-0. Like,
Well, you did see the Reds
I was
Pirates
just gonna
today.
say, did you see
Yeah,
the Reds
yeah.
Pirates?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently,
Okay,
Apparently
so
you can.
The,
so for
you
anybody
most-
who
can't win a
didn't
ball game
catch
without a
that,
hit, but
for anybody that didn't
Wow.
catch that, the Reds pitchers threw a combined
green.
no hitter and still lost the game, 1-0. So
I mean,
only the
they're
Reds.
on track to probably be, I don't want to say that they're going to be the worst team in MLB history, but they're certainly playing with that type of with that type of reputation. It's like they're trying to gun for that title. I think the worst team in history is like the Cleveland Spiders back, when they were a thing. I think
Great
that
name
was
for
them.
a team.
Yeah, much better than
Um,
Guardians.
I was gonna. Okay, so over the last two series, you've had some bad luck. You've had 2 3-run home runs in New York that were wall scrapers in right field in New York. That Glaber one is a home run, I think, in like 4 ballparks or something. The Stanton one as well, very short home runs. The Garcia thing was really strange. That threw a big curveball into that game. And with the Tampa Bay series, the weird errors from like Chapman, Gosman throwing one away, Kirk pass ball to let a run score. You can't do that against Tampa Bay. You can't give Tampa Bay extra runs or extra opportunities because they won't give them to you. And I guess the one good thing Gosman pitched well. Manoah pitched well. Ryu pitched well. Like, pitching's going well. It's just the offense is so stagnant, and we only win when we hit home runs, right? Like, out of all those games, we went no home runs at all, and we don't even come up on the scoreboard when we're not hitting home runs. And it's this year, home runs are down. Home runs are down massively. So you have to be able to put runs across in different ways. And Cleveland, especially in that series, you saw Cleveland taking base hits whenever the opportunity presented itself. And we've got to kind of get to that, not trying to score 3 runs on one swing. We have to be able to, that runner's in scoring position is yet to turn around, and it is at the bottom of Major League Baseball.
Well, to your point there, Joel, to your point of just home runs being down so much, I mean, I heard the stat this afternoon of the Blue Jays have been shut out 3 times in this first 35 games, and they had been shut out 3 times all year last year out of 162 games. So
you look at the scoreboard at the end of the night and you see 3 teams getting shut out like every night.
Yeah.
Like, that's baseball now. It's just 30 teams are playing and 14 are going to score 2 runs or less. It's something
May
weird like
15th. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why this is still a problem. Like, how long does it take for MLB to get their house in order? I don't get it. But these games are boring, man, and I love baseball so much. Like, I'm going to watch either way, whether I'm bored or not. It's just maybe I maybe
Back
I have
and
an edible
forth?
if I'm bored. But like,
Back and
like,
forth
at least
games
I'm
are
watching.
amazing, right? Like, when it's a 1-0 game and it just keeps, and then it becomes 2-0. You're like, oh, it's out of hand now. We'll never be able to come back to 2-0.
Can't catch a 2-run lead.
And the way that bullpens are set up these days, that you face so many amazing arms out of the pens that type of stuff holds up, and it's wild to watch a season like 2019 when everything's going up, when backup second basemen are hitting opposite field 430-foot shots,
And they're hitting 25 of them in during that year.
Yeah. And now
Like-
it's like, it's a very, very, very different game. And our team is very home run dependent. Very, like, 265 bombs we had last year. Like, we're on pace maybe for 180 this year. Like, it's drastically different.
I mean,
those are
you,
wins.
you talk about the way like bullpens are constructed nowadays, and just the way they get utilized, and the guys like AAA is essentially like an extension of the bullpen, the way it's used, right? And more guys are just, I mean, like, we saw it. I don't know if you guys caught the headline, but the Blue Jays as a team struck out 24 in single A
game
yesterday.
Yeah.
right? Like, what's the name of this pitcher here? Nick Frasso. He had 5 pitches in the first 3 innings that topped 100 miles an hour. Like, and every team is just loaded with these prospects who are like throwing fire or have nasty junk. And so like getting to the bullpen used to be like,
it used to be a moral victory.
Yeah, like, okay, we've gotten through, Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander. Now it softens up and we have the bullpen. If anything, the bullpen's even harder now.
Well, especially. Go ahead, Brian. Oh, yeah. So all right, I appreciate it. No, so what I was going to say is it's especially difficult because of the expanded bullpens this year as a result of the lockout. So, I mean, it's not like you have 3-4 guys in that bullpen that maybe throw, like upper 90s. Like you can have that last guy in your bullpen, coming out throwing 98 and having just ridiculous stuff, and you've never heard his name before, which just makes it that much more difficult. So I mean, that's going to play into it too. And then Joel, going off your point too, talking about how much the Blue Jays kind of have, kind of gone back in terms of their home run numbers. How much do you think kind of plays into that? Obviously, due to the COVID measures in Canada at the beginning of last season, and for most of it, the Blue Jays were, split between Florida and then Buffalo for a good portion of the season. Down in Florida, obviously the weather is going to be a lot more hospitable than it is up in Toronto in April. How much do you think that kind of factored into those numbers?
I don't get me wrong. I think it has an effect because those AAA stadiums were playing pretty small at the beginning of last year. But I really feel like league wide, you're seeing this incredible decrease in offense, right? Like
global warming.
Yeah, it's like you look at big name sluggers like Story's got 1, right? Yeah. Story has 1 home run right now. That seems incredibly strange at this point in the season to be 130 at bats in and have one.
Has old Marcus Semien put one out yet?
I don't know. And his OPS is 400, like 420. He's worse than a pitcher.
And he had 45 home runs last year?
Yeah, the record. And third in MVP votes, right behind Glavine. So it's just like
Marcus Semien does not have a home run.
Does not have one, no.
Thank you. I knew he didn't as of last week, but I wasn't sure if he got one this week.
That's just a wild and the numbers. Brian, we had talked about this when I came on your show. How home ball flight distance is down incredibly, 20 feet on a ball. If you hit a ball 103 miles an hour at a 27-degree launch, last year it goes 420. This year it goes 390.
Yeah, I mean, Joel, I think you said in one instance, one ball was 40 feet shorter than it would have been the year prior.
Yeah, and that's happening. All repeatedly. Of those are look at the OPS drop that you get from a home run, the best thing that you could possibly get offensively, into an out on the warning track. It's 0. It's the biggest possible thing that you could get for your production and for the game and to put up offense into nothing. Mm-hmm. So that's doubles aren't becoming singles, triples aren't becoming doubles. It's home runs are becoming outs. The biggest thing that you could decrease the offense with.
Yeah, and the difficulty with doing this is obviously the manipulation of the baseballs and doing all this is that MLB teams aren't able to prioritize, the best possible way to win baseball games. Obviously, if this is the way baseball is just played for the rest of the time, MLB is going to look at a lot more guys like, for a Boston's person's perspective, like an Alex Verdugo or an Andrew Benintendi, who isn't going to necessarily hit the ball out of the yard, but can provide those, nice line drives up the middle, can have, a smattering of nice base hits here and there. And if they decide to go back to 2019, obviously just hammer the power hitters. But because it's just this constant manipulation, you're never able to really get a certifiable answer on what we should do, and that's kind of screwed up the whole process here.
Let's compare, because this feels like a crisis for baseball. This whatever is going on with the baseball being broken relative to last year and the sticky stuff and the crisis of spider tack or whatever we want to call it. Where does this rank next to that? Because this feels just as bad, if not worse.
Worse.
This is worse, particularly because it's Major League Baseball that is doing the manipulating.
Yeah.
Also, because foreign substance was 60% of the league, and this is everybody. Every pitcher is now
And
cheating without cheating.
What's interesting too is the only time where we're seeing a big increase in offense is when it's a game that's on Apple TV's deal. So like they are, and I'm convinced like they're for sure using juiced balls on these Apple TV. All of a sudden, you scroll through the scores on your sports app, and all of a sudden it's all these games that are 5-2, 3-1, a couple shutouts, and then there's one that's like 13-9. That's always the Apple TV. I mean, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. I think it's just good business on baseball side of thing. But like, how about we just do that for everything? I would way rather be like, why are there so many home runs than what we're watching right now?
Yeah, and I mean, and Scott, what makes it worse is that, Joel and I spoke about this on our show. It'd be one thing if it was on the Apple TV broadcast and it's like, all right, well, then I'll just watch the Apple TV broadcast. The Apple TV broadcasts suck. The commentators blow on those broadcasts. So the only games where there is actually, high flying action, you have to sit through this freaking Apple ad the entire time and just constantly have her learn about the new series streaming. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Tell us how you really feel, Brian. Love it. All right.
Well, I mean, it's a little tangent. I spoke with Joel about this. I mean, they mistook Trevor Story for Rafael Devers. I'm sorry, you can't do that. And then they referred to Bobby Dahlbeck as Robert. I'm sorry.
Well,
You're just trying to be formal.
Yeah, no.
Formal. All right.
I'm sorry. Listen, it's been a tough year.
It's been a tough year. All right. Well, let's ask this last question here, and then we'll move on. Last year with the baseball and the sticky stuff, baseball stepped in, and I mean, for better or for worse, they addressed the problem, right? They had new rules. We're going to start checking fingers and crotches and hairdos, right? They dealt with it. Is baseball going to do something similar with the baseball crisis this year, or is this just what it's going to be for 2022?
Well, these dead balls go against their stated mandate, which is to improve the quality of the game, the excitement level, right? Like that's the whole point of these pace of play measures, is to keep the game rolling and make it more exciting for fans to watch. Right. So what's the point of shaving a couple of minutes off of a game because you can't make as many pitching changes or whatever the case might be, but you've stifled offense to the point that people don't even want to watch the game, including people who actually enjoy baseball. They're just tuning out because it's so damn boring. I really like a good pitcher's duel. I like a 1-0, 2-1 game. I don't want it every night.
Yes.
Right? That is not, I am not tuning in to watch that every single night. And it's not even that all of these pitchers are actually dealing, right?
Yeah.
It's the fact that these balls,
the hitters suck.
They're getting hit hard and still getting the easy outs.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what it is. And so, if Major League Baseball really wants to improve the excitement level of the game, then they have to do something about this.
Could you?
I don't know why we're even in this position, right?
Like, could you imagine if there was one problem with basketball, and that only problem is the basketballs themselves, and this went on for
the balls are too big to fit through the
for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, that's the only problem. Like the NBA, this would have been solved fucking before the season even started if this was.
But see, that's because the NBA they're excellent at recognizing that they are an entertainment product, right? And I don't know that other leagues have reached that same level of understanding about themselves. We
need Vince McMahon to come in and fix baseball for us. Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
Oh, good. I like that a lot, though. Bring in Vince and just have guys dropping elbows.
Absolutely.
The two things that come to mind about this are like, what is a hard hit ball in 2020? That is 2022. I mean, like that is a consistently changing number. We 95 is a hard hit ball. Well, in 2019, 92 was a hard hit ball. In 2022, 98 to 100 is a hard hit ball. It's like this, the constant understanding that a hard hit ball is just one number. Well, the ball's changing It's not. It's an ever-changing number that you have to try to define what a hard hit ball is from season to season. And then the other issue is the fact, I really think that the big thing that's trying to happen here is, once again, I feel like these changes were coming just even if foreign substance wasn't dealt with last year. Okay. They were going to put in the humidors everywhere and they were going to do these changes. So there was a possibility of foreign substance overlapping with dead balls and us seeing like a 620 league OPS and just literally banging our heads against the wall. We're pretty much there. But what does that do? And where's the financial incentive in stifling offense? Well, if you look at the players and what they make, the elite players, the top end players, the ones that Judge, Guerrero, Bichette, in Boston, it's Devers, it's Bogarts. Those contracts are
Story.
those
Robert
contracts.
Dahlbeck.
Robert Dahlbeck.
Love that, man.
The contracts now for the hitters are potentially, like, we're talking about Juan Soto making $500 million a season. Okay. We don't have pitchers at that level yet. Like 320 is the top end for Cole. Right. So I think Major League Baseball wants to bring the hitters level down and the pitchers level up, because in New York, they don't want to have to spend $350 for Judge. They don't want to have to spend $600 million in Boston to keep Devers and Bogarts. We don't want to have to spend $800 million between Vladdy and Bo. So the owners come and they say to Manfred, hey, stifle the offense for a little bit. We got some big free agent bats coming.
So Joel,
I don't buy this.
I love this.
No?
I love this. I want to jump in for a real quick second here.
Please.
Because what this reminds me of is, number one, the amount of faith you have in Major League Baseball it's actually heartwarming, and I love
To actually do something, to actually have a plan and go
to
through
have a
with it.
plan and implement it like you're suggesting that they are able to do. It actually reminds me, I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, Look Up. And whether you have or not, basically the whole thing is there's this obvious thing about to happen and everyone refuses to look. And there's a scene where this lady, Jennifer Lawrence, who all she's done the whole movie is try to warn everybody and no one wants to hear it. And she's in the alley literally getting high with teenagers. And they're just throwing out these conspiracy theories, right, of what's going on. And she's like, as she's like literally doing, smoking weed and getting high with these kids, she's like, it's so much worse than what you guys think. They're just idiots. They're all idiots. None of this is intentionally being done. It's all just like a chaos of errors. And that is what baseball feels like. It's like that Bar Rescue. Have you guys watched that Bar Rescue with John Tafferty? And he goes into Bar Rescue. And literally...
Bar Rescue, that was my college show. And whenever me and my roommates came back, it's amazing.
But every episode's the same. He goes in there, and he's like, oh, my God, you're all drinking on the job, and the kitchen's disgusting. Like, every episode, right? And that's
there's always like an animal in the freezer. It's a mess.
We need to get the animals out of the humidors. Fix this game. We need John Tapper and Vince McMahon to come save baseball. All right. Well, there's our intro quote for the episode. Appreciate that rundown, Scott. All right. So we all agree baseball's broken. Quick answers. Let's just go around. Is baseball going to do something to intervene mid-season the way they did with the sticky stuff last year? Or do we just see it play out? Because I genuinely have no idea what's about to happen. Scott, let's start with you.
My bet is that they for sure do something incredibly drastic mid-July, change the whole trajectory of the entire season in true MLB style, right? And people will get injured, and they'll blame the rule changes. It'll just be total chaos. It'll be the spider tack shit all over again.
All right. Brian, how about you?
I actually have a similar kind of opinion to Scott. So it's that I think MLB, obviously they care somewhat about putting an entertaining product on the field, but the number one thing they care about is making sure their money is, is pretty safe. So they're going to wait until this batch of baseballs is up. They're going to say, all right, that we got that inventory out. All right, they've all been used. Great. Now, all right, just get the old ones back into stock, guys. All right, just start making those old batch, and then they'll ship those out. And probably like Scott said, around July, whenever that batch of baseballs will eventually run out and they start making the new ones. That's kind of when you'll start to see things pick up, similar kind of to when last year you saw some implementation at that midway point.
Jen, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think they have to. And I mean, going back to the sticky tack stuff, right? Like they could have nixed that right at the beginning of the season. They didn't. They did it midway through, which was just silly. Like in terms of just, before sticky tack, after sticky tack, right?
I think
like
they did it right at the All-Star break.
Yeah, the season was divided into two halves based on this foreign substance and this arbitrary decision as to the timing of removing it. So I think there very well could be another arbitrary decision about the timing of introducing new baseballs.
Yeah, there was one half of the season where Garrett Cole looked like looked like God on a baseball field, and then another moment, and then the other half where Kermit the Frog doll freaked him out to blow up in the wild card game.
Joel, are we going to see new baseballs?
Last season it was the no hitters that was, I think, the big defining thing. Like there was a no hitter going pretty much every single week at one point, and they're like, oh wow, we're one away from the no hitter record in June.
Single season no hitter record, yeah. And
we're seeing that now. We're seeing the pitchers are warmed up and they've got a month under them, and every day there's no hitter warning to the 8th inning. And we had one today. It's going to get to the point where you'll see one every 10 days and then they'll step in. That's pretty much the way that it was last year. And last year, last year it was on the field. When you saw a guy doing this, sticking it up, and you could go look at the stats and go, oh, his RPM's up 350. There isn't any of that this year. It's the balls as a whole. So there is no moment of visual cheating or anything like that.
There is like the fact that I feel like all 30 teams have at least one player hitting below the Mendoza line right now. I know that's not quite exactly Mendoza. Right, but I'm sure the Red Sox have at least 2 or 3. We have Matt Chapman. I mean, just for like everyday players, never mind Zimmer. Something's got to be done, and dear God, do I hope it happens soon.
Out of curiosity, what do you guys think about the teams around baseball that are built around the home run? Very similar to the Blue Jays, very similar to, let's say, the White Sox. And we're watching these teams that are built around the home run struggle more than they have in the past, right? Are these teams just supposed to sit tight and continue to do what they're doing and hope that this all kind of works out in the wash? Like, it's almost like playing the shift, but on a much bigger scale, right? It's like, how long do you just keep doing what you're doing and hoping that, eventually the numbers play out? Or how long do you kind of get to the point where teams need to start reevaluating the way they're built?
Well, it's the matter of, the analytical people in baseball have their set mindset as to what they're going to do, and very rarely they're going to want to move away from that. If they see their team, if they know their team is going to live and die by the home run, they're going to tell their players to swing for the fences. They do not care, and they will continue to do that. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of all the analytics in baseball. I think that it can sometimes get a little screwed with when you have the human element, like these like the humans actually tampering with these baseballs involved. So that's why I think that I think they need to switch it up, but I don't think they necessarily will.
All right, let's
I don't know that they know how to switch it up.
Right?
That's the thing too.
That's the problem. If you look at the Blue Jays and the way that lineup is designed, how do you switch that up?
Trade for more Tapias. All right, we got a comment here on YouTube. I don't know how accurate this is or not. This comes from Connor. Says he read on Twitter today that as of an hour ago, the entirety of the league hit 200 today. So wow. I assume that's just for today. That's not bringing the average for the season to 200, but that's pretty wild.
That's still
for a
disgusting.
Single day performance. All right, so we're gonna get to the loss of George Springer. Continues to be injured frequently. The return of Danny Jansen. Whether or not Bo Bichette is fixed now, among other things. But before we get to that, we're going to do a little change up here. So everybody's brought their own passionate, interesting topics that they would love to discuss today. And the way we're going to decide who gets to bring theirs up first is we're going to play a little game I like to call Guess the Total Career Earnings for This Player. Just like the name sounds. The player that we're going to guess, and now I can't do it because I've seen ahead, okay? But we're going to start with Barry Bonds, okay? So total career earnings for Barry Bonds. Let's just throw out some quick numbers. And we're going to do this Price is Right style, okay? So it's closest to without going over. Everybody's familiar with the rules? Awesome. Silence
Without going over.
is encouraging.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Without going
yeah.
over.
So bid $1 if you think everybody else went over, Joel. But we're going to start with Scott. Barry Bonds, total career earnings. People in the YouTube chat could play along if they like. No peeking. Barry Bonds, I think technically Barry Bonds Jr. Total career earnings. Scott, go.
And this is just baseball earnings, correct? Just what they made.
Official baseball contract earnings. Yes, not sponsorship. I'm not getting into any of that. But thank you for the thorough question.
Man, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll start at 200 million.
Okay. Jen, let's go to you.
I was going to say 225.
I'm taking notes so nobody could change their answers after the fact. Joel, what do you got?
It's a good question. I feel like first 10 years he made 43 million, and then those final 10 years probably I'm gonna go 175.
175 is your total?
Yeah.
Okay. And Brian, what do you got?
I'm gonna go 215.
Wait, what did Joel say? 175?
175.
You got to go 176. That's Price is Right style right there.
Oh,
No,
there we-
he already said 250.
Next round. We'll be better next round, okay? All right. And ding, ding, ding. The correct number, correct total earnings for Barry Bonds, $192 million.
Damn it.
Joel wins. All right, Joel, what is your topic?
Even
You
though
get a-
I'm closest, let's bring that up.
Yeah, closest but over. Doesn't count. We've been over this, you poor sport. All right, Joel, what do you want to talk about? You got a couple minutes. Let's go. Let's dive into it.
Well, kind of to segue off of the last thing that we were talking about. Okay, you know how in hockey you've got a guy who's in charge of handing out discipline across the league, right? You've got a face of the disciplinary acts that you see in hockey.
Right.
I think baseball needs a face of the baseballs. Somebody to be literally, hey, what's going on? Somebody to be like, oh, the balls, somebody to be a voice of why this is going on. Because
you want a scapegoat.
yes, I want somebody to have to speak on it and be somebody that does press conferences and we can direct all these questions to, because there's really no place to put it. Who do you talk to about these types of issues? And it's been something that's gone on for like 5-6 years now, that the balls change every year. So I want somebody who is the face of the baseball.
Expand Rob Manfred's his duties.
So to clarify, not the face of baseball,
No.
face of the baseball.
Of the baseballs, yes.
All right. All right. We'll see if we get that or not. All right. Let's. Anybody want to add to that, or should we just play another round here quickly before we move on?
Well, and it also goes into the rubbing up aspect of the balls, right? With Manoah, and him saying that the balls feel like they're not rubbed up properly. But somebody to be kind of in charge of all of those aspects of the ball.
I like the idea of accountability, but
Yeah.
but it's
A
not the
lawyer for the
same as
balls.
discipline, right? Like it's entirely different. And I don't know. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but
I don't know why this person came to mind when Joel said it and, was talking about someone policing baseballs. For some reason, I don't know why this person's name came to mind. AJ Przinsky. Just get him out there. I don't know why, but let's just see it.
Like Shanahan was the guy for hockey, right?
Yeah.
So get some guy who's got a big mouth on him and has no problem talking.
Shane Hillenbrand is my nominee.
AJ Przinsky.
There you go.
AJ Brzezinski.
All right. Next up, we've got round 2. Joel, you can bid, but if you guess it right, we're not talking the face of baseballs again. But we are going to guess Nomar Garciaparra. Total career earnings. Scott, we'll start with you again.
That's unfair. But
All right, you know what? That is unfair. Brian, you're the Red Sox fan. We're going to start with you, okay?
Oh boy, I mean, the Red Sox have been known for lowballing guys, so I'm gonna say let's go with 186 million.
186 for Brian. Okay, Jen, let's go with you.
I'm gonna lowball it even more and go 110 because I have no idea.
Jen said
I can't manage
110.
my own money.
Fair enough. Joel, what do you got? Just for fun.
That's about where I was going to go, Jen. About 110, 115. I feel like the longevity of the career wasn't there. I think he stopped playing about 36, and he was probably only making money for about 6 or 7 of those years. So,
And he was playing. And now that I do think about it, he was playing in the 90s, so I did kind of probably hurt myself a little bit.
I'll go with 117.
117. All right, Scott.
I'll go
it's
with
all on you.
$1, Adam.
$1. Scott's going with $1 career earnings for Nomar Garciaparra. A little bit of strategy here. I like it. I love the feistiness in it, Scott. All right. The total career earnings for Nomar Garciaparra, $81 million. The closest is Scott Belford with $1 without going over. All right, Scott, what's your subject?
Okay, my subject is the fact that Alberta could literally go into complete havoc at the end of tonight if the Calgary Flames wind up winning Game 7 against the Dallas Stars here. It would mean that the Oilers and the Flames play each other in the second round for the first time in 32 years. So the Battle of Alberta would be reignited, and this province would just be a madhouse. And I hope that's how it goes.
I hope you're right, Scott. If there's a Game 7, Oilers, Flames, are we watching it at my house or are we watching it at your house? Where are we doing this?
I love that we both are and we're not meeting in Red Deer.
We're not meeting in Red Deer. No,
we'll drive the extra time. Yeah.
I'm so in the middle of this because I'm in Edmonton. I live in Edmonton, but I was born in Calgary, and look at my last name. It's French for the Flame.
That's right.
Hey, that's tough, yes. Joel.
I'll come to you. I'll come to you so that Joel, you and I can all watch together.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Brian, are you a hockey fan at all?
Oh, Bruins. I'll just you know what? I'll watch them. I mean, listen, back in the day, I used to play high school baseball. Obviously, we had the entire team was made up of a bunch of guys from our hockey team. So I remember just whenever the Bruins were on, they would just hammer on about the Bruins, and they were always like, just don't let the boys get hot. You just constant, just like it was like you were playing with hockey guys, but I do not even know what a blue line is. You'd have to tell my family I love them. No. I mean, listen, I hope they score more goals than the other team, but listen, at the end of the day, I can't. Yeah.
All right. That was back in the dead puck era.
Yeah.
We fixed the puck issue. All right, let's throw another game of guess the career all-time earnings.
Wait, Scott. Wait, what was Scott? Oh, Scott's topic was the hockey. Never mind. Sorry.
Welcome to the show,
I
Jen.
swear I'm paying attention.
That's all right, Jen. All right. Next up, we've got total career earnings of all-time Blue Jay, Sean Green.
Ooh.
All right, Scott, you just won, so we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Sean Green played for the Blue Jays, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Mets.
You know what? I'm going to start off with $60 million.
60 million. Okay. Joel, let's go with you. What do you got for Sean Green? Friend of the show, Sean Green, by the way.
Yeah, friend of the show, Sean Green. All-time total bases in a single game record holder.
That is not the
Sean
game
Green.
we're playing, though.
Not the game we're playing.
8 total bases. No.
You said, Scott, you said 60?
He said 60.
6-0, yeah.
I'll go with 50.
50 for Joel. All right, Brian, let's throw to you. Sean Green, what do you got? Total career earnings.
I see Joel at 50. I'm going to go 44 million.
44 million. All right. And Jen, what do you got for Sean Green?
My initial thought was 65, but I've been high on everything. So let's go 48.
48 for Jen. This one is going to rock your socks, folks. His total career earnings, Sean Green, who started his career in 1991 with the Blue Jays, made $113 million over 16 seasons.
Big money, Sean Green.
Big money for Sean Green, yes. So, by default, Jen wins with 48.
No, I win.
Well, no, Scott, you're just playing for fun. You already got to go.
Oh, yeah.
You're paying about as good attention as Jen is, who's literally high on everything. Her words, not mine. All right, Jen, what are we talking about?
Okay, so I brought a Blue Jays related topic. So my question is, who on the Major League roster are you most concerned with, and why is it Lourdes Gurriel Jr.?
I wasn't paying attention. What was the question?
Who on the Blue Jays roster are you most concerned about right now? And then just for fun, why is it Lourdes Gurriel Jr.?
All right, let's start with Scott with that one because I know he's a big Lourdes fan.
Yeah, Lourdes is very cold. Lourdes is one of the most hot and cold guys on the entire Blue Jays, in my opinion. And when he is hot, he has the ability to carry the team, which is like a pretty high ceiling for when a guy's hot. Honestly, like, I'm kind of concerned about Vladdy, and I know I'm being ridiculous here, but like, I really was hoping that he would be the guy when things are as bad as they are right now to like come up with a big hit. You know, when you're 0-0, this team, I'm not by no means saying either that the weight of this team should be on Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but if he's going to be the face of the franchise, and he is, and if he's going to earn that long-term big money deal that everyone seems to be pushing for the Jays to do, and they should, I'm in that boat. I don't know. I've been disappointed in him so far to this season. I hope he makes me eat these words, by the way. And if you look at his numbers, they're still fine, but it's Vladdy. Runner-up for MVP, according to like almost every voter last year, but one. So I don't know.
No, that's a
I'm not.
real
I think he'll
concern,
be
so.
fine, but yeah, I'm concerned about how he's played.
That's fair. Joel, how about yourself?
I'm with Lourdes, he's 29. You know, the cold starts are kind of like, at this point, I understand it from the guys who are sub, 25 and under. But for Lourdes, after especially being so hot in September last year and thinking that you're going to carry something on, like, looks like Danny Jansen carried his September over to this season.
Yes,
but whatever it was, like, Lourdes takes a break from baseball and then he really, really struggles for 2 months to figure himself out. And his second half last year made up for his wretched first half. But I don't know, for this team to be, with taking it to another level and all of that stuff, you figure that the 29-year-old would have come in and been ready to go this season. So I understand the Lourdes kind of disappointment from Jen. So
that's kind of where I'm coming at it from as well, right? Like, by now he should have figured it out a little bit more than he has. Unless this is really what you're going to, get from him.
I think
don't
that's
know.
where we're at personally. I
right?
think
In which case, it's great when he gets on a hot streak and is carrying the team, but it was great when Randall Grichuk got on a hot streak and was carrying the team. And everybody wanted him out of town too. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like it's when those numbers aren't sustainable at all. I'm just looking at him right now as being a bit of a black hole in that lineup, and this team can't afford a black hole. But to Scott's point about Vlad, similar thing, right? Because he is the face of the franchise. He is the one who said, last year was the trailer, this is the movie, right? He took that upon himself to sort of sell this season, and we haven't quite seen that from him. Actually, we haven't seen that from him at all. And there was an interesting quote from Manoah after the game today, which is that basically that they need to regroup, and that there's a lot of outside noise. And unless these guys are scrolling through Twitter every day, I don't know what that outside noise could possibly be, right? The simple thing is they need to get it together.
Well, I mean, this comment comes from YouTube, but Jen, because you brought up the Vladdy quote about last year was a trailer and this is the movie. So this one comes in from the YouTube chat from Michael Borland. When do you all predict that the movie stops sucking? It's been a pretty poor sequel so far.
Sounds like a standard movie nowadays. Honestly.
Still previews. It's still the previews.
We're at the part of the movie where the main character has lost his job and girlfriend, but things got to start looking up. That's a great comment there, Michael.
they're 18-17 right now through their first 35 games. In 2015, they were 17-18 after 35 games. So basically at the same point where they are right now. But the thing is, in 2015, they had that insane trade deadline, right? Do any of us foresee an insane trade deadline if they're just sort of treading water around that point in time? Probably not.
Jose Ramirez. All right.
That would be ridiculous. I mean, for a guy like Lourdes too, I mean, he kind of from the intel I've gotten from you guys and just kind of realizing what he does, different position. Obviously, this was a pitcher, but kind of reminds me of a Clay Buchholz, where my grandfather always had a saying about a guy like him, and it's that he plays a little league schedule, and he's going to play those couple of games. He's gonna have his little streak, and then things kind of fizzle out towards the end. And basically, that's kind of what Lourdes is dealing with right now. If this is the pattern you're gonna see with a guy, you have to understand that. So if he, according to plan, does kind of catch fire and starts to get hot. If that trade deadline comes around and you see some teams, saying, oh, this guy could be of interest to us, maybe you pull the trigger and get something in exchange that you think can really benefit your club down the line and help and put you in good contention in the AL East.
Yeah, I don't know what the market would be like to trade Lourdes Gurriel mid-season. I don't know.
I mean,
he'd have to get really hot, I think.
He would really.
That's the thing.
And if he gets really hot, are we going to trade him? Right? I don't know.
Yeah, if he gets really hot, he's perfect.
He's perfect.
But listen, I come from New England. I live in a place of so much pessimism. Even though we're a winning city, you do the Bill Belichickian move of getting rid of a guy a year too early, or selling high, or you get rid of these guys because that type of performance is going to come with them if this is what they're capable of. If you think that you can go out there and get someone more quality at that point, then you go and do that. Obviously, you don't sell low, because if he's able to produce at a higher level, then you go do that.
Joel?
The thing that I wanted to add was that isn't there this kind of like expectation with Lourdes that he's just going to magically become Yuli at some point, right? Like Yuli is like not. That's Yuli kind of makes you think, oh, don't worry, Lourdes will eventually learn how to hit. Yuli knows how to hit, and they look so similar.
You know what? This is my opinion on Lourdes, and I think he's a fine player. I think he fits in with this team admirably. Again, when he's hot, his ceiling's very high. I think he's a $3 million a year player that we've got for another year and a half under contract. He's got a cannon of an arm in left field. Again, when he's at the plate and he's hot, he's good. When he's cold, he's cold. And listen, he sticks out when he's cold, when the rest of the team is also ice cold. Because whenever Lourdes winds up with an out, it's never pretty. It's always an ugly swing at a slider outside and off the plate, or, he pokes one into a lazy fly ball into right field, being ahead of the pitch. It's never like one of those. You're never like, oh, his exit velocity is incredible. It's just bad luck. It's either he's off completely or he's on. So I don't know. Like, he's 29 years old. Are we going to get an upgrade on Lourdes mid-season? What we need is a hero. We need somebody to frickin' step up and carry this team for one game. Somebody to come up and hit 3 home runs. Somebody to do something, right?
Espinal isn't doing enough for you?
Espinal's been incredible.
He really has.
Talk about an overachiever. Espinal has been all we could ask for and more. My quick answer to this concerned with Blue Jay question here from Jen is George Springer. I mean, the performance is there, but I cringe every time the ball is hit at him because all of his injuries never look bad until the play is over, and then it's like, oh, he's down on the field. I was worried he had broken his leg the other day. But it was just on the replay, he just kind of caught it or was kind of going down into the warning. It didn't look like a bad, it wasn't a collision. It wasn't anything weird, but he's a little bit made out of glass. I'm concerned with George Springer.
He has one gear, right? He's either going 100% or he's not going at all.
It's like Fernando Tatis, right?
Yeah, they had that players only meeting right before that game. And then he ran into a wall. I really believe that was something. He's trying to be that guy. He is. He's showing the team. He's like, listen, if we're not all prepared to go 100% full out, that's the only way that we are a championship team.
I know. Look, he's got the heart like the Grinch at the end of the book, right? It's 3 sizes too big, but it scares me every time because, man, we don't just need him to DH. I'm surprised he was DHing today, to be honest. I mean, that's an encouraging sign.
Montoyo says he expects him to be in the lineup again tomorrow. So that's a good sign too. I mean, maybe it really just was a precautionary measure to
hopefully, I don't know. Leg injury scared the fucking shit out of me when I heard it. Holy smokes, man. Anyways, I love George Springer, but
we could be a little snake bit because of how his injuries went last year, too.
Sure, it was a bad first impression. He missed a lot of time. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got one more round of this game, and then we're going to talk Danny Jansen for a minute. So last round of The Price is Right, we're going to go with... Who do we want to go with? I'm going to do something... You know what? I thought the Nomar Garciaparra one was going to be a gimme for Brian. But he botched it pretty hard. I think that was the one Scott got right with $1. We're going to go with former Toronto Blue Jay, Brett Lawrie. Total career earnings, Brett Lawrie. Scott, let's start with you.
Well, he was a first-round draft pick. So he made probably $800,000 there, and then, right, 3 years before arbitration, I don't know, $12 million.
Okay, we're putting 12 in for Scott. Jen, what do you got for Brett Lawrie?
25.
25 from Jen. Joel, what do you got?
What did Scott go?
12. Man, you've already won one round, so we don't need this much effort. I love the effort.
I'm gonna go with 8.
8 million. Okay. And Brian, you're gonna win by default anyways, but we do need a good guess out of you.
Carry the 4. I'll go with 22 million.
22 million for Brett Lawrie out of Brian. The correct answer, $10 million. So Joel would win this one, but he's already gone. So Brian, we're going to throw to you because everybody gets a participation ribbon. So what is the subject you love to talk about?
All right, so this is kind of a more general baseball question, and it's kind of something that it kind of reflects on a topic that Joel and I spoke about on my podcast, just a couple days ago, and we were speaking about the K-Rod broadcast for Sunday Night Baseball and how how baseball was kind of trying to take a nod from the Manning cast in the NFL and say try to be like, oh, like you guys have your broadcast, your alternative broadcast, we have ours, and so far it's kind of just been a complete mess. What I'm wondering from you guys is if there's one aspect of another sport, whether it be hockey, basketball, football, whatever you guys watch, or just anything in general that you think baseball could do better and take from these other sports, what would that one, little piece be?
Okay, I want to jump in here first because this is something that I've been shouting from the rooftops as long as we've had a show to shout from, Scott. And that's, I want a skills competition implemented either at the All-Star weekend or at the end of the season or in some form. But I want to see like a modification to the home run derby with like some sort of it could be a bunting for accuracy competition. It can be a hitting like moving targets in the outfield. I don't care what it is. I want to see something. I want to see guys like outfielders with cannons of an arm throwing at a radar gun. And I want to see some wild numbers being put up. I want to see a race. I want to see who the fastest guy out there is. That's what I want. Let's take that from hockey.
I love that. I want to see outfielders seeing how far they can throw. Like
golden arm drill.
Center. Yes. Like
hit the cutoff man or something.
Yes.
Anything.
Have the fast runners at third base trying to score.
Yeah.
And the throw comes home like that.
So much opportunity. Every league does
so much
something.
Opportunity for injury.
Yes.
Well, that's always the pushback. But like, come on, let's.
No, but you're right.
If we got to do it at the end of the season, then let's do it like that, right? That's what the NFL does. They do it the week before the Super Bowl.
I've seen that idea.
The dodgeball tournament.
I've seen that idea floated before, and I think it's fantastic because, yeah, I just do. I think that would make that baseball would have the best all-star break of any sport at that point.
Yeah. Anything else to add, or did I just win the question?
That was a pretty solid answer. I mean, Scott, if you got anything, I'll pass it off to you.
Oh, I would love to see baseball embrace their players and their attitudes and their energy a lot more than they do, very similar to the NBA does. The NBA does such a great job of like raising their players up. And don't get me wrong, I know that there's downfalls to the NBA's player first mentality and how super teams, they kind of are building their own teams and stuff like that. But if you think about football and hockey, one thing that they don't have going for them that the NBA and MLB totally have is that they're all in equipment, right? And like their faces are covered, and there's not quite that like interaction.
It's an intimate connection.
Yeah. Yes, that connection. And baseball has so many fun guys out there and has so much incredible young talent. More young talent than we've seen in this sport in decades. And the amount of old manness that still is involved in the sport that just for the same reason that the balls are still fucked are pushing against any sort of personality being shown. And it drives me nuts.
I wanted to write a story on this when I was covering the Jays, and I asked some players their opinions on how Major League Baseball could better market its players, get more out of them in terms of fan appeal and all of that. And I didn't get much, like I ended up never writing the article because I genuinely didn't get enough from the players. But
right.
one player flat out turned me down for even speaking about it because they did not.
Names. Just
They didn't want any possible negativity then coming towards them from Major League Baseball, right? So I don't know what necessarily they were thinking, but
which says a lot in itself.
That's what I'm getting at, right? So clearly there is a disconnect there between Major League Baseball and a lot of its players. So I mean, I think the miking up of the players is a good start. I'd like to maybe see more of that for sure. Like, a player a game, in every game. I don't know, something, right? That would be a start. I know some players said they love the idea of like the custom cleats, kind of like the NBA players get to have their custom shoes, things of that nature. And frankly, why not? Right? Like, why have these rules about the colors on the cleats? Just who cares?
Yeah.
So something like that, but they're definitely, like I said, this, I never even bothered to write the story because I couldn't get enough. So
Wild.
yeah.
I love the mic'd upness too. I think that's great. I'd love to see an expansion of that. I mean, Jen, you say once a week or one player a game, right? I would like to see full expansion. Make that like an audio option.
Well, I'm thinking like one player per team.
Oh, I want every player mic'd up, and I want to be able to choose. Okay, I'm going to listen in at shortstop, and be able to just flip between. I just want to hear everything. Give me all of it. Just tell the players, don't say any cuss words anymore. You're all mic'd up.
Yeah.
Or you can say cuss words.
Maybe there's an alternate feed. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it is right now is it is kind of like an interview, right? Like between the broadcasters, and they throw down and are talking to Joey Votto at first base, right? But I just want to like listen in. I don't even want to have Dan Shulman interacting with whoever. I just want to hear Joey Votto talking shit at first base.
I love listening to a game with ballpark sounds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the majority of the time I'm completely tuning out the commentary anyways. Mm-hmm. So give me a feed that is ballpark sounds and mic'd up players.
Yeah, I love that idea. Okay, let's
you really gotta, if you do that though, you're really rolling the dice on what these guys say, right? Like, as it is, you're gonna need a list of like, here are slurs you can't use, and like, even though nobody should need to give a list of slurs. No, but it's true though. Like,
general understanding. I mean, no.
That was one issue that I know that happened with the NBA during the COVID season. Where they were playing their games in the bubble, was that they realized like, oh my God, we can hear everything they're saying, and this is potentially trouble because some of this is not meant to be picked up for the broadcast.
Some of the worst trash talk that was meant to stay hidden for years is now just coming to light, and it's like, oh shoot, like
everyone's like, that's homophobic.
No, I forget, there was something involving Luka Doncic, I think, I think being called a quote B-ass white boy. There was that involved with him, and then just different things of that nature. I mean, something I'd like
more
to say,
racial slurs.
Yeah,
give us the examples.
Jesus Christ. But no.
Brian, just stop talking.
Listen,
someone take Brian's shovel away, please.
No. But what would be interesting to see though would be I'd like to see more like, of the Twitter beef in the MLB sphere, because I don't know. I found this kind of tweet interesting today. It was Jamal Crawford ends up tweeting out, just about Jamal Crawford, 6th man of the year, great, basketball player. He ends up saying he talks about this guy, Jalen Brunson. And he says his footwork is elite. And then this guy, Josh Hart, who is a point guard currently playing, ends up saying, it's because his head is fat as hell. It keeps him balancing better. And then that guy, Jalen Brunson, responds to Josh Hart and says, if you keep trying me, the whole world will know your nickname. And it's just like, I don't know, just little like things like that.
That's
I'm like,
good.
I don't know. You look at an MLB player's social media and it looks like an advertisement page. It looks so fake. There's no realness to it. I mean, hate a guy like LeBron James all you want. When he's himself a lot of the time on social media, and he's going at and he's talking a lot of the time there. So I like that kind of an atmosphere where you feel a real personal connection with these guys.
I got one quick point to throw into the whole thing. I'm still waiting on Oakland to shift to Vegas so we can see a Vegas Knights type situation. Like Vegas might be the place for like fun to actually come out in baseball and start to do things, because it's in Vegas. How do you not like shoot fireworks off for a double play or something, right? So if it would be great for, yeah, I'm just red in everybody's face, just everything's exploding all the time. Yeah, if it would be really interesting to see it there, because it's almost a place where how can you not have fun? How can you not put fun and the show on full display, right? Because that's what that city's all about.
And I know most of us will probably even forget this, but back when Toronto scored runs and won games, so, weeks back, it was a pretty fun little thing to watch Jordan Romano come out and close the game, or to watch the light show that they kind of put in there. Like, that's one thing that I thought Rogers did a really good job of with kind of their upgrades in the stadium. Again, we don't see it because they don't score anymore, but back when they did, it was fun.
Well, this idea of like Twitter beef and trash talk kind of ties into our next topic here. We're going to talk the Garcia Yankee ejection incident that happened in that unfortunate Aaron Judge walk-off home run victory for the Yankees. The one takeaway that I want to start this off with was, after the game, we got a little bit more of a behind the scenes as to like what was the incident, what was the justification for ejecting him, right? Because Garcia, after giving up the Stanton home run to tie the game, hit Josh Donaldson and then was ejected after the umps had a little conversation. And my understanding is that the reason they did that was that Heineman, the catcher for the Blue Jays, and Josh Donaldson had been shit-talking each other earlier in the game. And I would
have loved to have heard that.
Oh, me too.
Have that mic'd up.
Right? There you go.
Man,
every little interaction at a home plate. That's probably the feed I would listen to the whole game. Let's just give me whoever the catcher is. I want to hear him heckling. But no, the post-game interview with Josh Donaldson, they were asking, like, well, what went on between you and Heineman? And he said, it's just like typical sports stuff. And then they asked if they had any like beef from any previous games, and Josh Donaldson was like, no, I never even heard of the guy before. Just like those little digs, and like Heineman's the perfect person to throw that shot at, because like it's legitimate, right? Like, you don't say that.
Yeah, because he's being genuine.
Right? Like,
that's not even
genuinely
talk.
Like, I've never heard of this catcher before.
I didn't know that kid that existed. Yeah.
So all right,
I think we all had that moment with it. So
yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk that ejection, because Charlie Montoyo got ejected for, was it the fourth time this season or third time?
Third time.
It's just the third time? It feels like it's been more often than that.
They were it was going to be a situation where he was going to be suspended for one game because of the ejections, but Major League Baseball didn't follow up with that one game suspension.
For who? For Montoyo or for
Montoyo? Yeah.
So what do you guys think of that ejection in general? Was that justified, or was that the umpires trying to make the show about them once again? Because, Jen, do you want to start here?
When you have teams and pitchers complaining about being unable to get a grip on the ball, right? So you have that as one element going on here. Yes, he had just given up a home run to tie the game, but it's a tie game scenario. Why are you going to purposely put another guy on base? That just doesn't make sense, right? Garcia was not the one with the beef with Donaldson, supposedly.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever was being said, like, did they actually think that Garcia was somehow standing up for his catcher? Like, what is the mindset there, right? And they have this little meeting on to talk about it, and they just arbitrarily decided, yep, that was intentional. And I think that shows that umpires have way too much discretionary power. I just thought it was utterly absurd. Just a complete ump show. That's just what I thought about it. And, you know, the reason Montoyo got tossed was because next inning, Bo Bichette gets a ball up and in, right? And so why was that not seen as potentially being intentional or eliciting a warning or something of that nature? That's what Montoyo was sort of chirping about, and boom, out he, you know.
They did a John Boy breakdown.
I was going to say, did anybody catch the John Boy breakdown of this? Because it's so perfect.
Beautiful. Because
I respect to Montoyo for talking like this,
which
the entire
is
time.
Hilarious. But they
I
still
would
are showing.
have been. Oh, so go ahead.
No. Sorry, Brian. Yeah. So they're showing John Schneider. So they're all literally the entire Blue Jays bench is yelling, "Why even give a warning?" But that was their argument, right? They're like, well, why do we even have warnings if you're just not going to toss him out in a situation like that? Because
the point of
Garcia
the warning
was tossed for the similar thing, right?
After Garcia gets ejected, both teams get issued warnings. In theory, that means any time you throw out a batter, intentional or not, the warning has been issued, automatically you're gone. So that was the Blue Jays' beef at that point. Was like, hey, the warning has been issued. He just threw out Bichette. It should be an automatic ejection. Instead, Montoyo got tossed. And I love the confusion on his face when he did get tossed, because it was like, literally baffled, like genuinely not sure who was getting kicked out. That was one of my favorite highlights of this whole terrible stretch here.
Watching him run out smiling like he did, like that just summed up my entire emotion of that moment right there, where it's just like arms in the air, like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah, exactly. What else can you do?
Yeah, there comes a point where the umps just become so abhorrently bad, where it's just where you kind of just have to smile and just like take in the shit show as it's coming at you. You're like, Jesus Christ, this thing's insane.
Yeah, I mean, Red Sox just had the same thing happen.
No, yeah, I mean, listen, I would have been finger in face, just being like, I mean, I would have just been like going off on this guy.
Say some more slurs, Brian.
Yeah, no, not coming at me. Not gonna happen. Just not gonna happen. But no, trying to think, what did they have happen? In one instance, they had, so with the incident with Garcia, like, had they thrown him out there and then policed the game that way the rest of the way through, cool. But as soon as you throw at Bichette, that should have been an immediate, just quick point, toss, gone. Yeah. That for me is where the entire situation changed. If it had it been that, they saw some intentionality there and then they enforced it the rest of the way, fine. But because they didn't, that's when it became, all right, this thing is getting way too much of an ump show, as Jen put it.
I was going to say that I don't like, I've talked to Yankees fans who were like, I don't understand the tossing of Garcia one bit. And that's like coming from Yankees fans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, like, was it on PitchCom, that pitch? Because I would really like to hear is like fastball, inside. It's
like me when I was back at a summer camp back in the day, and my buddy's catching a high home plate, and there's this kid that comes up to the plate that we just did not like, and he's just back there in the crouch, and he's just slamming the inside of his left leg, and I'm like, all right, yeah, wide back, just throw, yeah. It's pretty much kind of what that would be.
Speaking of bad umps and arguing with the umpires, did anybody else catch that clip of Max Muncy questioning the strike, like right as beefy down the pipe as it gets? It was like right at like belt level,
beautiful?
Right over the plate, called strike, and he's just looks at the ump and he's like, oh, it was
like it's on the black. It's like no,
it's
bad.
It's dead
bad
center.
120 this year.
Yeah, no, it was bad. Max Muncy, classic.
I wanted to. The funny thing to me about the whole Charlie thing was that he comes out and he's smiling about the whole situation, and the umpires are like chucking Pete Walker like as he comes out. He's like coming out like, what's going on here? And they're like, you're gone. They're just throwing people out behind him. And Charlie comes up and he's trying to be the person. He wants to come out and argue, but he has to get between the umpire and his own players instead of like it was so ridiculous to watch. And why we've gone from a time period where we don't throw at batters anymore. Nobody does. Like this isn't 1972 and you hit a home run, so I'm going to bust you up and in the next time. Analytics has pretty much killed the concept of throwing away at bats from a pitcher. And in that game, in that moment, it's not 10-0. It's not a blowout in any other way. It's a tie game, and so it was really just made absolutely no sense. That with the Madison Bumgarner thing that had gone on, we've just seen so many umps. You know, the strike zone is being taken away from them. Their power is being taken away, so they're going to flex every opportunity they get while they can. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. You talk about Montoyo coming out there, obviously ejected for the third time this season. He's probably going to get tossed 10 times by the time the season's over. What is our general feeling? Because we're going to talk batting order here briefly. Has some of our confidence in Charlie starting to wane? Because I feel like a couple weeks ago we were pretty impressed across the board with the job Charlie Montoyo has done. I don't even want to say this, but like this feels like, and I'm not calling for Charlie to be fired, but like if there was ever an opportunity where like with the Blue Jays struggling and like something needs to be done, this is a conventional opportunity to fire the head coach and be like, well, we can't cut anyone. We can't make any trades right now, but something needs to be done. He's already kind of on his last kick at the cat, so to speak. Is there any chance that that's a solution to this? Am I just fucking way out of hand here?
No, Adam. I think you're right in hand, although I will say the saying is not a kick at the cat. It most certainly is a kick at the can.
Don't go kicking cats.
Yeah, like I don't know where this analogy's going, but
okay.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Look, I'm mixing my metaphors. The term is dead cat bounce, right? That is the term for when you fire your coach at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then you get that little bump of like wins. That's a real thing, right? I'm not making that expression up. You've heard the term dead cat bounce before? No?
Well, the Oilers are all about it.
All right, let's leave the cats alone.
They kick their cat to the can.
All right, so we're throwing cans at cats now. Let's talk Montoyo.
Okay, so I think, and I could be way off base on this, I think there's absolutely no way that Charlie's job is in danger right now. I don't think this is the type of move that this front office would make to shake things up. I don't even really think this is Charlie's fault. He can't take a bat. He can't take a bat and go and get into the box, right? So does this team need a major shakeup? And maybe they do. And I don't know. We talked about this on the podcast on Friday, Adam, where, external help is a ways away.
Yeah.
Especially with expanded playoffs and this front office's ability to normally, asset management and so on and so forth. They're not going to go out and way overpay for a guy that they can get in 30 days from now for half of that, right? Mm-hmm. So what are your options then? Because I don't think the move is firing Charlie. I don't think that's even the right thing to do for this clubhouse. Do you call somebody up? What do you do? I don't know.
Firing Charlie at this point, I think would be akin to pressing the panic button, right? Yes. You're literally in full panic mode at that point, and you're doing something for the sake of doing something. And it's not even addressing what the actual issues are, which is that this team is simply not hitting. If they fired the hitting coach, and I'm not even laying blame there necessarily, because these are major league players who need to produce. But if you fire the hitting coach, at least it aligns with what we're seeing on the field, right? Mm-hmm. And for Charlie, okay, I mean, not everybody. A lot of people have been clamoring to see Vlad in the 2-hole, right? So he was moved into the 2-hole yesterday with Springer out of the lineup, but he stayed there today with Springer back in the lineup. Now, I'm not going to draw any conclusions from a 2-game sample because that would be foolish, but that was a move that a lot of people wanted to see, and he did it, right? There was a shakeup in the lineup. You know, he is at least trying something new. So, you know, ultimately, it is on the players to perform, right? And if they're not performing, I mean, he can roll the dice and make a lineup that way too, right? Like at some, what are you going to say about it? So I just think firing him, I like you said, I don't think it's something this front office would do. And I think it would just be akin to absolutely panicking just for the sake of it.
Joel?
All right.
Sorry, Joel, before you go, I just want to address the fact we have Lewis Foster joining us. Welcome, Lewis. We're just talking about kicking cats and potentially firing Charlie Montoyo, whether or not that's even an option or if that's even crazy to discuss. That's the context of what you're walking into.
It is crazy, yeah.
And Joel's going to pick it up from there.
Cool.
So, you know, with Charlie last year, the issue with him was I felt like we were a better team with our run differential. Like our run differential suggested that we were a team that probably should win 8 more games, and we just needed to win 1 more. So that was kind of like a sting that's saying, hey, there's a guy out there like Scott Service who took a team that was 50, 60 runs under, you know, like they scored 60 runs less than they had scored against them, and they were right there with us, right? So you were seeing there's a manager here with a bunch of offense who didn't get what his team, you know, didn't get out of his team what he should have, and then over here a guy who got way more and won the games. Like he won games by 1 run and then he'd lose, but you'd win 2 out of 3 games, and he knew how to win. This year with Charlie, the lineup construction has been really, really suspicious for me. And I am of the mindset where I don't understand why Springer hits leadoff. I just don't get it. There's like, you look at every single team that you face, and their 2 best hitters hit 2-3. And then you got a guy like, you look at the Yankees, and they put, it goes Judge, Rizzo, Stanton on any given night, usually. Sometimes they'll alternate, but they put Judge in the 2 spot, and they'll put Hicks and LeMahieu in the 1 spot, depending on the matchup. Hicks has got a 400 on base. LeMahieu's got an 800 OPS. So you're getting different things, but you've got a guy who's, you know, consistently getting on base. He's not hitting the home run out of the 1 spot. And then behind that, like to me, sacrificing a George Springer at bat with nobody on base to start the game, and then having Tapia and Zimmer in the 9 spot, always guaranteeing that
I agree with that.
Springer comes up with nobody on. And
I can attest too that this is not new. Joel texts me about this pretty much every single Blue Jays game.
Oh, just for weeks and weeks now. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's 2 guys, like ideally you're at the beginning of the year, Springer's our number 1 guy, but as the year goes by and you see how your players are producing, you have to allocate those guys into the spots that they belong. And number 1 hitter on the team who should lead off is Espinal.
Yeah.
He should lead off. It's just, he's got a 360 on base. He's got a nearly 800 OPS. He's got a little bit of pop when it comes to doubles. That's pretty much what you want out of the leadoff spot. He gets on 35% of the time. Springer comes up in the first inning 35% of the time with the guy on first base, hits a home run. It's 2 runs. It's just, that makes sense to me. It goes Espinal, Springer, Vladdy, or you could switch Vladdy and Springer if you want to. To me, it makes sense. Espinal, Springer, Vladdy, Teo, Bo, Lourdes, Kirk, Jansen,
Like,
whatever.
It's even wild. It's even wild how much longer that lineup felt yesterday with Chappie hitting leadoff. And
Which
I'm
was
not saying
really interesting.
I'm not saying I want Chapman as the leadoff guy, but even just having someone else in that leadoff spot, even though Springer wasn't even in the lineup, it felt longer. It felt like a more well-rounded lineup. And the fact it was frustrating to hear on the broadcast them give Montoyo all of this credit for finally shaking up the lineup, and it's just like, how was this not something that was done a week ago? Like
2-3 weeks ago. This
Look,
should
you
have been
kick
done
the
a long
cat,
time
things are
ago.
going to get shaken up, right? Okay, what does everyone think of Chapman leading off? Because I know that goes against everything Joel believes in. I think when it comes to shaking things up and putting someone at the top of the lineup, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to reward someone who's hitting well and deserves it, right? And who you want more production out of. You want to capitalize on that. That's the idea of putting Espinal there. But idea number two is that you're trying to use it as a catalyst to get someone's bat awake who has not been, and that's Chapman to a T right now. So I didn't have a problem with Chapman leading off the way Joel does.
He does have a good eye. He takes pitches.
Yeah.
It was one game, and
I just think we need to do something to get Chapman going because
It's just a lot of strikeouts.
I feel bad for Chapman. Chapman's
lot of strike.
these dead balls definitely hurt him a lot because he's a fly ball. He's a fly ball guy who needs these balls to leave the ballpark, but they're not. So his expected numbers look great, but the baseball is just not helping him this year. And he's striking out less this year.
Yeah, he is striking out less. Yes.
So he is improving on the side of the ball that he can't control. He can't control. But when he's hitting the ball, he's just not getting the results that he usually gets when he was good in 2019 and 2018. So,
Lewis, we were talking off the top of the show about the crisis of baseballs in baseball and relating it to the sticky stuff last year. Obviously, last year baseball stepped in mid-season, made drastic changes to eliminate the sticky stuff, and we saw a massive correction in statistical performances and production across the board.
Yeah.
I'll pose this question to you. Do you think that baseball will make drastic changes to the baseballs mid-season, or is this just a dead ball season?
Jeez. I really hope not, because I think a lot of the dead ball stuff is attributed to the Jays not being too good to start the year. But, MLB does crazy stuff all the time, and it's usually not in favor of what the fans want and what baseball needs. So I'm going to say they change it through the middle of the year, but they'll probably screw something else up along the way in that process, But we'll see. It's crazy what they've done. I don't know how they messed this up.
You're literally nailing the general consensus of what we were saying. It's knowing baseball, they're going to screw this up. They are going to change it mid-season. They won't even know what the repercussions of doing these changes is going to, bring on.
Keyword is change it mid-season versus fix it mid-season.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's saying fix.
We don't think we'll fix it.
Yeah,
all right. Well, let's do a quick look ahead here as we're starting to turn third base and head for home on this live show tonight. But let's look at, we got a lot of topics left to get to, but I want to make sure we all get to this 15 game stretch before we get to the really, I hate to even get ahead of ourselves, soft part of our season. So we got 15 games before we start seeing the Orioles, the Royals, the Reds, the Tigers, these teams for a pretty good stretch there to start June. So we got 15 games. We're 18 and 17 as it stands right now. Last week I asked the question of, should Jays fans be bracing for a 1-5 record this week? And unfortunately, that's kind of how it played out. So we've got 3 games against the Mariners, 3 games against the Reds, 2 against the Cardinals, 4 against the Angels, and 3 against the Red Sox. Of those 15 games, what is
y'all mean the White Sox?
What did I say?
Red Sox.
Did I say Red Sox? Yes, sorry, the White Sox. I can't read today. Yes. So Mariners, Reds, Cardinals, Angels, and White Sox. In those 15 games, which is a mixed bag of good teams and bad teams, what is the absolute low water mark that you want to see the Jays come out of this stretch with? Jen, let's start with you, our resident pessimist.
The absolute low water mark is you want them to come out, what, 8 and 7?
Yeah.
Like you still, right? You want them to be, right? Because you want them coming out still being above 500. So they'd have to go, if they're 18 and 17 right now, they'd have to go 8 and 7 to still be above 500. So I would say that is the low water mark.
Okay. Joel?
Yeah, I'll go to 9-6. I don't know. I'll go slightly better. But I feel like this next 15 games is if you come through this set of games struggling, that's where you have to make a change. Something has to be done where if you come out of these 15 games and the offense isn't coming around the way it should be and things still seem like we're sputtering, that's whether it's a trade or sending some guys down and maybe promoting some youth, something has to be done. So like this is it's not the underbelly, soft underbelly of the schedule yet, but it's games that you got to be winning every one of these series. You have to turn around the mentality of, because we've lost 3 in a row now, 3 series now.
Well,
So it's
9-6 would be winning every series and splitting the one with the Angels, basically, is what
so-
that would look like.
where I'm seeing the wins coming in this year. Like the Angels are good. They're playing really. I think they're on pace for 100 wins this year, right? So worst case scenario, we got to take one of those games against the Angels, right? 1-3, maybe
Four.
that's
Four against the Angels.
yeah. Sorry, 1-3. We win.
Oh,
one
sorry.
and
Sorry.
That's okay. I mumble, so it's fine. White Sox also a good team. If we go 1-2, that's keeping our head above water. We can split with the Cardinals 1-1. That's a 2-game series. The Mariners, we should beat. That should be a 2-1 series. And then the Reds, we have to sweep. Like if we're gonna struggle to get by through the other 4 series, we have to sweep the Reds. Like 2-1 against the Reds is not enough, and that gets us to 8-7. If we take 2 from the Mariners, all 3 from the Reds, and then 1 from each of the Cardinals, Angels, and
That's
White
what I'm
Sox.
saying. Like
it's
that's
ugly,
the
but it gets us to
absolute low
8-7. Yeah.
bar.
Yeah.
That's the lowest bar to set for sure.
I'm almost at the point, and I don't even want to say it, because I do think this team should go 9-6 in this next 15. In fact, could even do
10-5.
better. I'd be fine with 10-5. Like they should. This team should be 9-6, 10-5 type of thing. I will take 7-8 if there is some life from this frickin' offense. Like I will almost take an L on this next 15 games if coming out of it, I'm not like when the Jays in a scenario like today where Manoah allows 2 runs or 3 runs, I'm not like, well, game's over, might as well shut it off. No way this team can come back from a 2-run deficit, right? Like if that feeling of complete inadequacy when it comes to the bats is gone, I will take a 7-8. But this team should be 9-6 against this next 15 run.
Yeah, I feel like over the stretch we're just due for 1 or 2 hitters to just have a hot streak. And I feel like that's all this team needs, because we do take our walks. I feel like it's just got to come together at some point.
I would say for you guys looking at this stretch, I would say 8-7 is typically where you want to be on a tough kind of road, or just tough series of games, not road trip. Excuse my language, but just on a tough series of games coming up. That's it. It's typically the bread and butter of where you want to be. But because you're playing the Cincinnati Reds, the worst team in all of baseball, possibly ever. 9-6 has to be the low watermark. I think 10-5, is where you kind of want to be at. Obviously, that's more than ideal, but 10-6 has to be the low watermark because you're playing the Reds, who are absolutely abysmal. So
I just don't have faith in this team to wake up and do any sort of damage against a team like the Angels right now.
Yeah,
I think
the Angels are hitting. So.
Any other team that they were playing, I would say I would agree with you with the 8-7, and even go with Scott on the 7-8 train. But because of the Reds, it needs to be 9-6.
That's still only 3 games against the Reds, though.
That series is going to be scary. If we lose games against the Reds,
sure.
You know what? This is where the Yankees...
the Red series, it's sweep or bust. It's sweep or bust.
It absolutely has to be. I mean, we criticized the Yankees going into that last series against them. They were coming in hot. We were like, yeah, but they won 10 straight against bad teams, right? But that's what good teams do, is you have to beat up on these bad teams. I mean, we're coming up to a point where on the other side of this stretch, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, right? But on the other side of this stretch of 15, we've got 13 games against the Twins, Royals, Tigers, and Orioles. That could be a 13-game winning streak. I don't know if we have the strength to actually put that together. But even like if our bats are struggling, we should be able to win like 12 of those games, right?
Houston's a good example. We gave it to Houston in our games against Houston this year, and they just pulled off an 11-game win streak, right? Like teams will look incredibly abysmal for a good chunk and then rip off 11, 12 wins, and that's what you hold on to at the end of the season that got you. Why are you 11, 12 games over? It's that one win streak that got you, right?
Right.
On the other side of that nice soft stretch, we got the Yankees again. So I do feel like June 17th, we got the Yankees. That feels like mark it on your calendar because that's going to be, I think, a good spot in the season to kind of evaluate
the balls?
where we're at. Yeah, juice
The balls.
Exactly.
The fresh shipment will be all in. They'll be ready to go.
All right. Let's talk confidence in Ryu. He pitched pretty well against the Rays, to be honest. I was pretty nervous after that first at bat. Gave up the long ball in the first inning. Settled in there nicely. What is our... I know it's like tough to tell, right? He's just back from injury. But, Lewis, let's start with you. What's your confidence in Ryu moving forward?
Scale of 1 to 10 is probably like a 5.
Yeah.
You know, he's so strange he just has to be perfect. You know, his velocity was up last game, which just boosted confidence a little bit. You know, we saw some 92s, but it all comes down to accuracy with him. And, you know, if the arm tightens up again, he starts dropping into those high 80s, he's just going to get hit hard. And I'm scared of that because it's a really easy thing to happen for him.
Well, look,
Yeah.
His next start is coming against the Reds. We can't afford to donate wins to the Reds, right? Like
really
we still
can.
need Ryu to show up and pitch competently against that
Big
AAA
guy,
team.
yeah.
So, Scott,
Little
I know
worried.
Scott, I know you're a big Ryu fan, or you have been in the past.
I was just going to say, you might not all be ready for this beam of positivity, but I'm feeling good about Ryu. I honestly am. I still see it in this guy to be a dominant pitcher in this league, even if it's not going to be with the Blue Jays. Like, I truly believe that he's going to figure it out in the next little while, whether it's this season or next. Frick, I hope it's this season. But he's a guy who his whole career has been all about, you know, mixing his pitches, hitting his spots, switching up the way he's approaching the hitters. He's always been very, very quick on his toes when it comes to adjusting. And that is where we've seen the big drop-off in the last year, from about mid-June on last year. And yes, there's a lot of things that have been attributed to it, from fatigue to, you know, he normally he gets six days off normally between rest, and he's better at that. Like, there's all sorts of things. Ryu's also very regimented with his routine, right? And that has been kind of messed up as of late too. So I really do believe he's going to find it. I hope it's this year. I hope it's with the Jays. But it wouldn't even shock me if he winds up being a complete bust the next 18 months and he catches on with the Tampa Bay Rays in a Charlie Morton scenario at 37 and just finds it again. I mean, knock on wood, that's not the scenario that happens. But the guy knows how to pitch. He does, and has shown it for years.
I think for a guy like Ryu at his age, and, you know, his entire age, you know, the velocity's never been his friend. But for him especially, you know, I don't know how are any of you guys boxing aficionados by any chance, or not? Not really. Have you ever heard the term tomato can? So a tomato can is basically a guy in boxing that just really has no skills whatsoever, can go in, you can just beat the crap out of him. That's what the Reds are to Hyun-jin Ryu. I mean, the Reds are a tomato can team to where he can go in, beat the crap out of him in this next game, and gain a lot more confidence and hopefully carry that into the rest of the season. That's how he's going to have to approach this. And, you know, beating
Love
up on some
that
bad
take, Brian. Love
beating
that
up on
take.
beating up on some bad opponents is really able to, give you that confidence. Yeah, sure. It's easy to do it, but it allows you to kind of, free, kind of snowball from there and be, and kind of carry it on.
Are you sure it's not a tomato cat?
Yeah, it might be a tomato. You know what? You make a good point. You know what? No, it is a tomato can. I can confirm. Tomato can.
A kick at the old tomato cat.
All right. Well, there's our new shirt.
Jen,
Let's get the artists on it right now.
Jen, you're making me second guess myself. Jesus Christ.
I always make notes whenever I do any podcast or anything whatsoever. And my note on confidence in Ryu is literally just a question mark. Only because we just need to see a little bit more out of him, right? Like,
yeah,
that he did. He looked good yesterday, right? Coming back from injury. He pitched better than I expected. And, hopefully the one thing that, as you said, Scott, he is a finesse pitcher. He makes adjustments, right? He has to locate his pitches and so on and so forth. And that bodes well as a pitcher ages, right? Versus just relying on, a heavy fastball and losing velocity year over year and not being able to figure your way out of that. So, it is entirely possible that he's going to find it again and be a valuable contributor to this team. We need to see.
And he's only pitched 3 games this year. It's like,
yeah,
that's true.
Very and who knows whether or not injury was bothering him, right? For, that last start that he made, who knows, right? So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, sure. For you.
10 years of him pitching in Major League Baseball, he's got a lower career ERA than Garrett Cole does, right? I think his career ERA it's National League pitching for the most part, but the guy's been a pitcher. He is, and it's really, I think, dependent on that changeup away. If you can spot that changeup, if he spots that changeup away, it is a pitch that he can throw 40% of the time. And I feel like the struggles that we have seen in him over the last year was the inability to throw that pitch where it needed to be thrown. And like Lewis said, that when he's down in the 88, 87 range for throwing a 4-seam fastball and the cutter, if he doesn't have that little tick up in velocity and he's not locating that changeup, it's a lot of pitches that you can sit and smash but 92 and locating the changeup the way he did in his last game, that's what you need out of Ryu. And so there is reason to be confident because the previous decade, this guy has been a successful pitcher. It's not just like he wasn't just good for a glimpse or here and there. It was an incredible amount of success that this guy's had. So
I'm only half joking when I say my biggest fear is Hyun-jin Ryu in 2024 in a Tampa Bay Rays uniform making $2 million for the year. Just like
throwing knuckleballs and just dominating.
Breaking out as like another top-notch guy again. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pivot from Ryu slightly and have a look at Yusei Kikuchi. 6 starts on the season. 3 have been kind of ugly. 3 have been about best case scenario. The 3 good ones come against the Yankees. Am I right on
one
that?
Against the Red Sox.
No, 1 good one against the Red Sox. Yeah, one of the starts against the Yankees was bad. That was the first one of the season. Relative to Ryu, where is your confidence in Yusei Kikuchi? Joel, let's start with you.
Well, from the beginning of the year, it was a Pete Walker project, right? Mm-hmm. With like spending high in that first season. And then if it doesn't work out, you're paying only $10 million the following 2. And it's the amount of stuff that they've thrown at him with the short start to the season and everything, coming to a new team, coming to a new pitching coach, being Japanese born. English is like your second language, barely, if at all, your second language. And we have seen him turn his slider cutter into one pitch. And we've also seen his delivery completely overhauled, So with that happening and putting up a low 4 ERA, like 4, I don't have his numbers in front of me.
It's a 4.15 ERA at the moment.
That's best case scenario, isn't it? I would say that a 4.15 at this point, if we started the year and say 6 starts in, his ERA is going to be 4.15, and he'll keep you in games as your number 5 guy.
And that is with the one ugly game against Houston where he gave up, I think, 4 runs in like 2 innings. So
if you eliminate that one ugly game, you got to eliminate that really good one.
And I'm willing to do
and
that.
And then you're right back at 4.15.
I think you're under 4.
But the comparisons at the beginning of the year were made, like when Ray left, it was like, this is a left-handed pitcher who's got a fastball in that range, who potentially has a breaking ball that can be, very similar to Ray's if we can get it right. And we lose Ray, but there's a chance that Pete Walker could create another one. And we might not be there yet, but we've gotten some competent pitching out of a guy whose ERA after the All-Star break was 6.5 last year. So.
I know that ERA is a stat that gets under a lot of people's nerves, but Robbie Ray's ERA is higher than Kikuchi's currently.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
It's the goals against average of the baseball.
I mean, I'd rather Robbie Ray, but.
All right. Well, Lewis, how are you feeling about Kikuchi?
I'm feeling good. His stuff is amazing. As a lefty, when he can get it up to 97, is just so rare around baseball. It's also got the slider cutter where he kind of just morphs them into one pitch. We were begging him to stop using the cutter, and he just didn't do it. I think someone finally sat down and talked to him and just said, "This is not going to work, man."
The slaughter.
So, and the change of mechanics, it all makes me confident that he's going to be a good pitcher. And his last 2 starts, he's just been phenomenal. What was he done? He struck out. He's got an 11 Ks for 9 in his last 2 starts. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, striking guys out, not walking too many. I really think this guy he's going to have a good year. He projects well. He'll have his blow-up starts here and there because when some things don't work, he was like Robbie Ray. Sometimes when one pitch wasn't working, he was giving up home runs left and right. But I think Yusei Kikuchi is going to be a really good 4 pitcher for this team down the stretch.
That's such a good comparison, too, because not only with Robbie Ray giving up the long ball could hurt him at times, but they both struggle with control here and there. So like when Kikuchi completely loses control, he'll walk 2 guys, and then the one pitch he does telegraph right down the middle is the one that winds up in a 3-run home run, right?
Think of it like Ray and Kikuchi have very similar ceilings. We're paying Kikuchi $10 million a year, or Ray's getting more than Gosman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm completely fine with what Ryu's giving us so far. And we have Gosman anyway.
We're only a month in, but isn't it wild to look at the choices the Jays front office made in going out and getting Kevin Gosman and letting Robbie Ray walk for $5 million, and also making the move for Chapman and just like eventually walking away from Simeon. And again, I think Simeon is far better than he is performing currently, and I think so is Robbie Ray. However, my goodness, they look like geniuses 6 weeks into the season, right?
Yeah, Max is having trouble too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy like Kikuchi, his ERA right now has actually never been lower than at any other point in his career. Also, again, just from an outsider's perspective, the guy's adjusting to a new city. I mean, listen, there's always going to be that kind of a factor. I mean, your first year with a new ball club, you're feeling things out. You have different coaches. You have, obviously Seattle's always a contentious situation because there's a lot of turnover there typically. But even with that, you're going into a new situation in Toronto. And even if you want to say that Pete Walker is going to do a great job with him, he still has to establish a relationship with the guy. I mean, as Joel said, if English is, not even your first or language or anything like whatsoever, and there is a type of barrier, he could be a great pitching coach, but he has to be able to understand and break down what he's saying and, turn it into an actual performance on the field. It's going to take time to play out, but it looks like things are going in a relatively positive direction.
That's a really good point, Brian. And even to go back to what Lewis was saying about Steven Matz, right? Like these guys with the ability to do what Matz did last year, or even Kikuchi did for half of the year with Seattle last year when he made the All-Star team. these are guys that are getting $12 million a year and some term that comes with it. Like, look at Matz. I think the whole reason the Jays didn't sign him is that they were like, we're absolutely not going 4 years for Steven Matz, right? Like, even though this contract could work out very well in the long run for the Cardinals. I mean, Matz is only 30, and he did look really good last year, and 4 years isn't crazy at $44 million. But also, it's Steven Matz at $44 million over 4 years, right? So I'll almost take the Kikuchi for 3 years, roll the dice over needing to go that extra year. Like, and the Cardinals are a storied franchise. Everyone always talks about the Blue Jays tax of the extra year they need to give, but that's the truth is that's the market on these type of pitchers, right? That solid quote unquote number 4, number 5 guy. It's over $10 million a year, and you got to go 3-4 years.
And the thing about being a solid number 4 guy is that there's nothing ever solid about a number 4 guy. That once you're past your number 3, even in elite rotations, you're usually kind of holding your breath a little bit because it's like, I don't know what this guy's really going to give me here. I mean, and then to even go off the new city thing, I mean, not even a new city. This guy's in another new country. I mean, listen, I know we're just south of you guys, and there's plenty of things we have in common, but I've been to Toronto like once, and I remember just driving through, with my parents in the car, and I just look over at the speedometer, and I'm like, we're going how fast? And I don't know. There's always there are certain differences, and there is always an adjustment period with these guys, and I think that from what you've seen with this guy so far, there's been a couple bumps in the road, but I think that things are going to work themselves out just fine.
I lived in the US for 1 year, and it is an entirely different world. I'm not going to lie. I had so much culture shock that I can't even talk about it. It's
if we think you think Kikuchi throws fast in miles per hour, just wait till you see the kilometers per hour.
Oh jeez, yeah. I've seen like, so I think I've seen like I don't know if the Japanese broadcast does kilometers per hour or anything like that, but I've seen like some other broadcasts that do it, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like I mean, I'm still on the good old US customary system. Just like none of your guys' metrics make any sense to me.
Literally metrics.
Love that Vladdy 190 exit velo.
Yeah. Jen, what's your confidence? I know we're running out of time here. But
Lewis made the point that I was going to make, which is that we've seen 2 really good starts from him in a row. So I think that bodes well. He's getting noticed. CBS Fantasy Baseball in their Week 7 preview picked him as a sleeper for people's fantasy league. So he's getting noticed for what he's doing, right? And so I'm feeling pretty confident in him. You're going to have, as Lewis said, he's had so much to deal with. He is going to lose that fastball command here and there, but I'm feeling pretty good about him out there. I'm not worried. Like, I'm not thinking, oh God, it's here's a game they can't win.
So when we look ahead at the probable pitchers and we're looking at matchups and how many games do we think the Jays can take in this series and blah blah blah, gut feeling when we see Kikuchi in that probable pitcher spot, is it unanimous that we all feel a little bit better about him than Ryu, at least in the short term?
Yeah,
for now.
I think you get the strikeouts. You get more consistent strikeouts with Kikuchi as well, and the velocity is, if the velocity isn't there for Ryu, then it's an issue. But I think that up end velocity that he can, and also I really am all about Pete Walker taking away that hesitation that he does in his windup and getting all of his motion going towards home plate. I think that will drastically help his fastball location.
The constant buildup of momentum really helps.
Yeah. Scott, how you
and
feeling?
I know I'm really taunting the baseball gods with this next comment, but I look at the rotation across the board for the Jays, and it's not the pitching that worries me. Like when I check who's starting, it's for the most part, I'm pretty confident in all of our guys, even when it was Stripling being run out there instead of Ryu. And I mean, Ryu still has to prove himself, but in the next start against the Reds, I feel pretty good. Yeah. I'm not going to say the same thing about the rest of the team. I mean, this offense is in crunch mode right now. It's time,
Pitching is why they're 18 and 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Summed it up perfectly. All right, let's end it there as we approach well past the 2-hour mark. For anybody watching, if you've made it this far, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that stupid shit that you got to do. We really appreciate the support. A big thanks to everybody who's joined the show tonight. So we've got Joel, Jen, Brian Costa. Thank you so much. Craig wasn't able to make it. Lewis, we appreciate you joining halfway through. And Scott, of course, as always. Scott, any big shows coming up for you that you want to plug all over Alberta? You're going down to Arizona. Are you doing comedy down there?
I am not doing comedy. I'm actually just doing a little vacation with the wife. So looking forward to that. We might as well mention that Fernie, BC. So if you're in the ski town of Fernie, the Walkoff, both Adam and I will be performing comedy there Saturday, May 28th. And if you come and say that you're there just because you watched the Walkoff, I will personally buy you beers. How's that?
Hey, there you go. And I will buy you poutine, but we have to split it.
How far is
Joel?
Fernie?
What's that?
Fernie's 3 hours from Calgary.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Sorry, boys.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Too
Brian.
far for you, Brian.
Yeah, just a
Brian,
bit.
let's throw to you then. You've got your podcast, Down to the Wire radio show.
Yeah, it's Down to the Wire. It's a radio talk show / podcast. We do interviews with athletes of professional and collegiate status, and then we also do some general sports talk. About any major sports events going on. It can be anything from NBA, baseball, NFL. We can sometimes talk some UFC too. It's a really great opportunity. And if you want to go check that out, you can. We're available on all streaming platforms and as well as YouTube, all that good stuff. And you can find all the links to that in our Instagram bio, which is at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire on IG. I really appreciate it, boys. I
love to have you
really
on.
do.
It was good to talk. You're very
Yeah, Brian, I was actually
Very
really impressed,
personable.
man. You know the Jays more than I was expecting you to. Well done, sir.
Oh, I'm a BS artist. I mean, Jesus Christ.
all right. Lewis, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining. I appreciate that you're able to make it at all, as always. I know you're busy with school and everything like that. You got your own real baseball to play, so appreciate you joining. How you doing?
Thanks a lot, man. I'm doing well. Baseball season's in full swing. I'm pitching a lot, so I'm loving it. It's great.
Very good. Joel, we talked
Lewis.
right off the top about, oh, sorry, Scott.
No, I just wanna check in. Where's your fastball topping off at now? You hitting 90?
90, not quite yet, but I hit about 86, 87 sometimes, but I'm cruising
You just got to
between
flip it over
80.
kilometers per hour, man.
Yeah, that's all I need to do.
Hey, Lewis, want to do an interview sometime?
Yeah, sure, man. That'd be awesome.
All right. Joel, we talked your movie off the top, but what's the name of the project? Do you know where people are going to be able to watch it once it is done?
So it's going to be on Shudder. We're then taking it to Netflix, but it has to be finished for us to take it to Netflix because the big hook is that we've self-produced this entire thing. So our bringing it completed to Netflix makes us a hell of a lot more money than bringing them a script and then asking them to produce it. And then you get kind of like, so yeah, definitely going to be on Shudder. It's called Live Feed. You can go check it out on IMDb. The cast, the crew, everything is up now. And yeah, 2 more days of shooting. Editing will be an incredible process because I think there's something like 1,500 hours of footage that we have to go through. But it's going to be amazing. It was an amazing process and really great episode this week. Jen, great to see you. Nice to see you again, Lewis, Brian. Loved having you on here. And yeah, it's just great week.
Great to see you.
Except for the Jays.
Except for the Jays. Yes, absolutely. One of these episodes we'll be here in good spirits. I'm sure of it. Jen, nice to see you as always.
Thank you for having me again.
We'll see you
I'll be
next
back.
week, I'm sure. Okay, very good.
You got it.
Very good.
Awesome.
I didn't get to talk about my special piece of article that I wanted to discuss because I was hosting The Price is Right. But what I wanted to just mention was that rest in peace, Norm Macdonald, obviously one of the all-time stand-up comedians. He's releasing a
This
Netflix
is the greatest
special.
most Norm thing ever. Yeah.
Yeah, so he recorded an hour-long special from his home in the summer of 2020 to be released upon his passing. And now that he's passed, it is coming to Netflix on May 30th. So I'm super looking forward to that. I think if you are familiar with Norm Macdonald at all, you're probably looking forward to it as well. But this was big news
Jesus
when I read it
Christ.
the other day. So pretty big deal. Very excited for that one. Should be a good time. All right. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in, for commenting, for being a part of the show, getting your comments in on YouTube. Sorry we didn't get to them as much as we'd like to, but things went long as they always seem to. So we'll catch you all on the next week. Have a good night. Go Jays, go.